This is the Noon News from Montana's news leader.
Good afternoon, and thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Asia Gore. Our top story this half hour: 2 Billings police officers are on leave after they shot a man this morning who reportedly raised and swung a shotgun in their direction. It happened in the parking lot of the Lazy KT Motel on 1st Avenue North just after 1 a.m. Officers first responded to the motel around 10 p.m. after that man fired a shotgun round into the roof of the motel. The suspect left the area in a black pickup truck before officers arrived. Nobody was injured in that shooting. Officers were again called to the motel around midnight for a report of a man walking around the parking lot with a shotgun. The suspect left but later returned in the same truck. As officers approached the vehicle, they saw the dome light inside the truck flicking on and off, and they heard a shotgun being racked. Officers ordered the man to drop his weapon.
The suspect refused to comply. He looked at the officers, raised and swung the shotgun toward them. At 1:08 a.m., both fired their patrol rifles, striking the suspect multiple times. It's unknown how many shots were fired at this time. The suspect did not fire.
The unnamed suspect is in critical condition at the hospital. St. John identified the officers as Matt Edwards, a 5-year department veteran, and Jeremiah Adams, who was with the department for 4 years. St. John says he's absolutely confident the officers' actions were justified. A suspect is in custody and 1 person remains hospitalized today following a shooting in Great Falls last night. Police responded to the scene on 7th Street North between 7th and 8th Avenues for a reported disturbance last night. Authorities report 1 person was shot and transported to the hospital in unknown condition. A suspect is in custody. No information, though, was released about the 2 people involved. President Trump sparked controversy Monday when he claimed past presidents didn't make calls to Gold Star families after their loved ones were killed in combat. The president is also taking heat today over a phone call he did make to the widow of a Green Beret killed in West Africa this month. CBS's Mola Langi reports.
President Trump called the families of 4 U.S. soldiers killed in action earlier this month, including Sergeant LaDavid Johnson. Johnson's wife took the call while on the way to the airport to receive her husband's body. Congresswoman Frederica Wilson says she was in the car with Johnson's widow when she got the call.
He said to the wife, well, I guess he knew what he was getting into. How insensitive can you be?
The president refuted the claim on Twitter this morning, saying Representative Wilson totally fabricated what I said to the wife of a soldier who died in action, and I have proof.
I have proof, too. This man is a sick man. He's cold-hearted, and he feels no pity or sympathy for anyone. And when she actually hung up the phone, she looked at me and said, he didn't even know his name.
President Trump doubled down Tuesday on his claim that previous administrations did not call Gold Star families after their loved ones were killed in action, and he pointed to his own chief of staff as evidence.
I mean, you could ask General Kelly, did he get a call from Obama? You could ask other people. I don't know what Obama's policy was.
White House records show that General Kelly and his wife did meet privately with Mr. and Mrs. Obama at a breakfast to honor Gold Star families a year after their son's passing. General Kelly declined to comment and has made it clear in the past that he does not want his son's death exploited. On Memorial Day, General Kelly and President Trump visited his son's grave at Arlington National Cemetery. Mola Langi, CBS News, the White House.
Presidents Clinton, Bush, and Obama all say that they have called families of fallen soldiers. Damage estimates from Northern California's wildfires are topping $3 billion. More than 30 wineries have been damaged or destroyed. A Napa Valley Trade Group says 90% of this year's grapes were harvested before the fire started. The FEMA administrator insists the federal government will help the people of Napa and Sonoma counties, but added the last couple of months have been an unparalleled period when it comes to the disasters in the U.S. The death toll today holds at 40. Meanwhile, fire season isn't over in Montana as a windstorm in the Flathead fueled several wildfires and knocked out power. A local Type 3 incident management team is being assembled to battle the blazes. 8 fires are actively burning in Foy's Lake near Kalispell, as well as Glacier National Park, Lincoln County, and above Lakeside. A fire on Blacktail Mountain grew to about 40 to 50 acres. A U.S. Forest Service crew is fighting the blaze, which is not threatening any structures. As of this morning, 33 power outages across northwest Montana are impacting about 674 customers. And on that note, we turn now to the weather scene with Ed McIntosh. We've got something a little prettier to look at today.
That's for sure, especially over the next couple of nights, Asia, as we're right in the middle of the Orionid meteor shower. And that happens when the Earth's atmosphere comes in contact with the path of a comet that's passed by. In this case, it's Halley's Comet, and we could have a chance to see really some very nice light shows over the course of the next few nights. This will last right through the weekend. It averages about 20 to 25 meteors per hour, but this meteor shower has been as many as 50 to 75 per hour in certain years. So just look to the darkest part of the sky, give your eyes plenty of time to adjust and take advantage of a little light show. And make sure you stay warm while you're watching as well. Leave yourself a lot of extra time. More on the forecast coming up.
All right, thanks, Ed. The president of the Northern Cheyenne Tribe is not stepping down quietly after attempts by the tribal council to have him removed. L.J. Kilsback was elected just last November, and now, for some unclear reason, the tribal council wants him out. The council identified Vice President Conrad Fisher as interim president, but Kilsback contends he's still president and claims he's being targeted because he uncovered fraud within tribal government. Kilsback explains an investigation revealed the tribe's treasurer was involved in a payroll advance scheme, and now the treasurer's brother wants Kilsback out. The tribe produced a letter of support from the Bureau of Indian Affairs stating its decision to oust Kilsback is legal. But Kilsback's attorney points to the tribal court's ruling that says the petition to remove Kilsback is insufficient. The tribe's media office declined to provide a reason for removing Kilsback. Meanwhile, Kilsback's attorney is asking for the BIA to retract its letter and allow the tribe to work the matter out. The University of Montana is extending voluntary severance offers for eligible non-faculty employees in its ongoing effort to reduce personnel costs. UM President Sheila Stearns said in a press release the university must reduce the percentage of the budget spent on personnel. Stearns says this severance offer may also reduce the number of involuntary reductions UM may be forced to make later. The university is in the midst of a program prioritization effort that Stearns says will further the overhaul of UM's academic programming and administrative services. And a lack of money could break a long-standing tradition for the UM Grizzly Marching Band. Due to budget cuts within the UM athletic department, the band's director says the trip to the Cat Grizz game next month will not happen. We're told the travel cost for the 130-plus marching band members is $25,000. The director says band members are disappointed with the decision, but he vows the band will create an energetic, fan-friendly atmosphere at all Grizz home games. The ACLU of Montana will sue to block a proposed ballot initiative requiring people to use bathrooms and other facilities based on their anatomical sex. The lawsuit filed in Cascade County District Court on behalf of 10 plaintiffs, including 7 transgender people, 2 parents of a transgender child, and the city of Missoula. The suit claims Initiative 183 would violate transgender Montanans' rights to equal protection and privacy, as well as put them at greater risk for harassment. Supporters of the initiative are gathering signatures to qualify it for the ballot next November. The ACLU is asking the court to rule I-183 unconstitutional and issue an injunction to keep it off the ballot. Still to come on the Noon News, the journalist known for her investigative report into the Panama Papers murdered at her home. Details when we come back. But first, Ed has our weather forecast. Stay with us.
You're watching MTN News with Asia Gore. Storm Tracker weather with Ed McIntosh and farm and ranch news from the Northern Egg Network. This is the Noon